Rumors are becoming increasingly alarming. At first, they were just small notes in little-known cybersecurity blogs. Then came reports in closed bulletins of European think tanks. And now, the world's leading media outlets, from the Washington Post to the Financial Times, have begun writing that Chinese smartphones may be Beijing's primary tool for spying on the entire world. For a long time, this sounded like a conspiracy theory, a scare story for naive users. But after the leak of communications from unnamed senior US officials, which suddenly surfaced on Chinese forums, the situation changed. This is no longer paranoia. It is an international scandal that could mark a new stage in the trade war between Washington and Beijing. According to sources close to the US intelligence community, this is not about isolated incidents. The system is centralized. The Chinese Communist Party, under Xi Jinping several years ago, compelled national tech corporations to provide access to user data to ensure national security. That phrase covers everything: messages, photos, location data, call logs. Huawei, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo all formally claim independence, but in practice, their servers feed into a unified data center under party control. That is why the call is growing louder in the US and Europe. Do not buy Chinese phones. You are not just taking a risk, you are handing over your life to a foreign state. Against this backdrop, a high-profile incident took place in Europe. Several European Commission employees discovered that their private chats and even work documents had begun to surface on suspicious Chinese websites. The source of the leak has not yet been officially identified, but the coincidence is too obvious. All of them used Chinese smartphones. Brussels is already discussing the creation of a commission to investigate the digital threat from Beijing. France's interior minister publicly declared, "Europeans must understand, behind the cheap price of Chinese phones lies the highest cost of all, security." The situation is even more acute in the US Congress is debating the possibility of a full ban on the sale of Chinese phones in the country. After journalists at the New York Times obtained screenshots of private conversations between American diplomats that ended up on Chinese social networks, patience ran out. According to Politico, the White House is considering emergency measures, from banning government employees from using Chinese smartphones to imposing steep tariffs and restrictions on the companies themselves. Experts note that the scandal undermines the very foundation of trust in international trade. China, which sought to turn its tech giants into global brands, now faces a new barrier. If before the competition was about quality or price, now the issue is national security. And here Beijing has no real defense. Chinese law explicitly requires companies to cooperate with intelligence services. Independent Chinese corporations do not exist, says a London-based cybersecurity expert. There are only different facades of the same system, run by the party. In the West, this is becoming ever clearer. Britain is already reviewing a bill to restrict the use of Chinese smartphones in government agencies. Germany is preparing business guidelines advising against purchasing Chinese devices for corporate use. Canada and Australia are holding parliamentary hearings on whether Chinese manufacturers should be allowed to participate in tech procurement tenders. Paradoxically, Beijing itself seems unconcerned. On the contrary, Chinese state media openly write, "The world must understand that digital security and state interests are more important than the illusion of personal privacy." For Xi Jinping, data collection is not a tool of control, but a strategic resource of the 21st century, as vital as oil or gas in the past. Data is power, and China intends to hold it at any cost. Against this backdrop, the US-China confrontation within the trade war is intensifying. Washington accuses Beijing of using technology as a tool of political pressure, while Beijing responds with talk of digital sovereignty and accuses the US of technological discrimination. But after the latest leak, when the private correspondence of officials ended up in the hands of Chinese entities, China's arguments lose much of their weight. This is no longer a debate among economists, but a direct threat to national security. That is why decisive steps can be expected in the coming months. The US is preparing a new package of sanctions against Chinese IT giants. The EU is discussing the creation of a unified registry of high-risk manufacturers, which would automatically include all companies required to cooperate with the Communist Party. Already today, many European operators are considering halting sales of Chinese devices, fearing lawsuits from customers in the event of further leaks. The main danger, however, lies in the fact that users continue to buy Chinese phones en masse without thinking about the consequences. Low prices, flashy specifications, aggressive marketing, all of it obscures the crucial truth. Privacy does not exist in China, and therefore it cannot exist for those who use their devices. As one analyst put it, every photo on your phone is a potential file in a Chinese database. Every message is a line in a report to the party. And this is no longer just a hypothesis. It is a reality that threatens to turn into the loudest technological scandal of the decade. The world is entering a new era in which phones are no longer personal devices, but instruments of global politics. The question is now stark. Either we choose security, or we allow a foreign power to know everything about us. But the most alarming aspect lies not in politics or government decisions, but in the fact that leaks and surveillance are beginning to penetrate the everyday lives of ordinary people. There are already documented cases in which the private correspondence of entrepreneurs suddenly ended up in the hands of Chinese competitors. Several companies in Silicon Valley have reported that after negotiations on new projects, their ideas appeared in a slightly altered form at Chinese startups just weeks later. This no longer looks like coincidence. Economic espionage is becoming routine, and the smartphone in one's pocket has turned into the tool that makes it possible. The problem is also beginning to affect ordinary citizens. Imagine your medical records, your geolocation, your conversations with family members, and even your intimate photos ending up in the hands of organizations working for the party. Experts in digital security warn the Chinese model of collecting everything is designed not only for political control, but also to build profiles of people around the world. These profiles can be used for manipulation, from targeted advertising to political pressure. We are facing a new form of digital colonization, writes Der Spiegel. Amid the growing scandal, radical measures are being discussed in the US and Europe. According to Reuters, the US Congress is considering legislation that would require all companies to explicitly warn buyers of the risks when purchasing Chinese devices. In the European Union, there is debate about creating a special fund to subsidize alternative manufacturers in order to offer the market inexpensive smartphones of non-Chinese origin. The idea is simple: to give people a safer choice. The world is rapidly approaching the point where buying a phone will no longer be a personal decision. It will become a political one. And everyone holding a Chinese smartphone must understand their data may be used against them. That is why Western experts warn that we are entering a time when the cost of a mistake is simply too high.